Good morning, it's Shanna. I'm back. I really just wanted to do a video this week about tarot, something tarot related. And I didn't get a chance to do that yesterday because I couldn't think of anything. So yesterday's video went up and I was kind of bummed about it all night, to be honest. So I thought about it for a while and honestly still didn't think of anything. But then this morning I sat down and did a big spread with a deck that I use, at this point, I use exclusively to communicate with my grandmother. She's been gone for 20 plus years now. And it was great. I've done it only one other time. It was almost a year ago, probably close to a year ago now. And it's one of those things where it felt special enough that it's not something before today, it wasn't something that I wanted to do often. But coincidentally, the very last question I asked led me to believe that I could go ahead and do it as often as I wanted. I guess my worry was that I was bothering her, right? I mean, I don't know. It seems like somewhere I read or heard that you don't want to bother the spirits too much. And maybe that's true for some. But this is my grams. So anyway, all of that to say that I had a really good time. I journaled about it. It felt very profound and personal. And so I thought I would do I would show you how I did it, essentially. I won't use the same deck that I use for that. I won't use a deck that I use for anything. Actually, I'm going to use Tarot of Echoes. I haven't had it long enough to give it, any kind of specific job. So I thought this was perfect. I actually use the Tarot of the Abyss for other ancestor workings. It's the one I'm using with the grimoire. What's it called? I can't remember. Also, if you can hear my washer, I'm so sorry. That's just a thing that happens on my days off. So, what is that book called? Now it's gonna bug me. I have it right here. Ancestral Grimoire. The Tarot of the Abyss is the one that I have assigned to this work through. Oh my gosh, I can't talk. You know what I'm trying to say. So I didn't want to use that deck either, but I feel like Anatorian's artwork just lends itself to ancestor communication. So I wanted to use this deck today. So anyway, a couple of things before I get started. I tend to keep this really simple as I can, because I don't like being overwhelmed. And the reality is I want to journal the experience, but I know myself in that I don't really like to journal more than 15-20 minutes a page worth. Sometimes 2 pages would be max for me. It's too much after that. So I keep it simple. I generally light a candle. For this morning's activity, I did pour 2 cups of coffee because she loved her coffee, and she's the one that actually introduced me to drinking it. When I was small, she would give me a cup, just a small cup of black coffee with honey in it. So that's kind of what I use as an offering for her. And then if you have any photographs of this person, if it's a specific person, definitely I would recommend pulling that out. Anything that used to belong to them or you knew they enjoyed. I read somewhere that offering tobacco is sometimes, something that's, I guess, what's the word? Good? I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say. Use things that you feel that they would have liked or that they do like. And that's kind of all I do. I generally will use some kind of ritual oil just to kind of get me into the mood of the moment, and anything else that I feel would sort of help me get into that frame of mind. Okay, so generally I will, honestly, it feels like last year when I did it, I had a set of questions. I sat down and I had a list of questions that I wanted to ask. Today, however, I just sat down with no preconceived notion of what I wanted to ask. I just wanted to have a conversation with my grandma. So, the first thing I think I asked this morning was, okay, you would think that after several weeks of this, I would learn to just turn the beeper off of my machine, my washing machine. But so far I've not. So anyway, the first question I asked, or that you could ask, would be something along the lines of, how are you? I mean, honestly, some of this, it seems so obvious, but if you're like me, it feels a little silly. It doesn't come naturally to me to ask spirits, or ancestors, these kind of questions. But honestly, that's, it's a simple question. It's kind of how we would have greeted each other, when they were alive. So I would ask, how are you? So this is just going to be kind of I guess like a mock reading, just so that you can kind of see how I did it, and maybe to give you some ideas if you haven't done this before. I know I like to watch this kind of stuff, so if you're not into it, I guess go ahead and just go watch something else. So anyway, so yeah, I would ask, how are you? And then I like to overhand because it gives me, cards. I like to take jumpers. Generally when I take jumpers, I try to focus on setting the intention of, give me one card or give me 3 cards or whatever. For this one, and the same this morning, I took any cards that jumped out and just tried to work with them. And I think this morning I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I had 9 cards, by the time I was done. So we'll kind of do the same thing here. So the how are you question for me, 10 of Pentacles. Honestly, this says, whether or not you believe in heaven, I don't know that that's something I necessarily resonate with, but if we wanted to go there, we'll keep this relatively in a box. Let's just keep it in a box for simplicity's sake. So for me, this says, whoever you're trying to reach or speak with, they're happy. They're with loved ones. They're not by themselves, and they're being well taken care of. The Hanged Man, to me, says, these could go in all kinds of different directions depending on who you're trying to reach, what their life was like, what kind of things they went through, how they died, what your relationship was with them. So this would just be, this is all very, very personal for each individual doing the reading, obviously, as any tarot reading is. For me, if in this mock scenario, I need to slow down. I would say, again, they're really happy. They've had a lot of time to reflect on their own life, a lot of time for introspection, maybe time to enjoy the things that they didn't have time to, while they were living. And Knight of Swords, interesting. Okay, honestly, his face cracks me up. I love Anatorian's art, but sometimes the faces throw me. Okay, we're focusing. The Knight of Swords, for me, is an impulsive energy. So maybe they're practicing these things that maybe in their life they weren't able to, weren't allowed to, didn't have time, didn't have money, the means. So maybe, that's what they're spending their time doing now. So this morning when I got my reading, there was one card that I pulled that didn't really make sense. Like I read the guidebook, and nothing about the description grabbed me for what she was trying to tell me. But there were, it was the 2 of Pentacles, and part of the artwork was on each of the stones that was in the image, there were pentacles drawn. And because I had been kind of curious about her feelings about some of the things that I've been practicing, I went ahead and asked, how she felt about that particular card. I'm not going to get super in depth, but so in this case, we could say something like, okay, well, what things are you enjoying right now? What are you practicing that you didn't have time to practice in life? So then I would just shuffle. And obviously you could ask any question to do with any of these cards or something else entirely. Oops, okay. So what are they practicing in life that they didn't what are they practicing now that they didn't have time for in life? Temperance. Okay. Finding a balance. Trying to temper their emotions. For me, if we were going strictly off of this, trying to find a balance between that impulsiveness that maybe they were feeling in life and probably, if I had to guess, finding a balance between that impulsiveness and the calmness that hopefully they're feeling now. That's where I would take that probably. Okay, so then maybe we want to ask something else entirely, like, okay, let's say we're having a big life moment. There's something going on in our life right now that we're worried about, we're stressed about, we're not quite sure what the answer is. So let's go ahead and ask, do you have any advice for me regarding this life thing that I'm going through right now? Okay, that was a quick answer. 10 of Swords. Okay. That is interesting. So how would some of these are a little difficult because honestly, it would really just depend on what the specific issue was. Let's say it's a work-related issue. So, any advice on this work-related issue? To me, this would say, all of these little things that are just like weighing you down, you just have to let them go so that you can climb yourself back up to the top of this cliff and feel that balance again. They're advising you to stop freaking out and stressing and probably in some cases over imagining the worst case scenario. Obviously you've brought yourself here, like these things did exist for you, but it's time to let them go. So for me, that's what that message would be telling me. Okay, so maybe I would ask, how can I let that go? Like, what practice do I need to instill for myself that will allow me to let that go? Do I need to quit my job? Do I need to start meditating? Do I need to start exercising more? Do I need to, maybe I'm the boss. Do I need to fire somebody? What do I need to do to help me release all of these anxieties and allow myself to come back to a more steady ground? Whoa, okay. So how do I want to do this? Let's do these. We'll leave that there. All right, what do I need to do? Okay, this is interesting. Okay, so 6 of Pentacles. To me, this is find joy in things that you enjoy again. Come back to the things that bring you happiness. Maybe it's revisiting family. Maybe it's finding things from your childhood that brought you joy that you need to revisit. Maybe it's just as simple as going to the park and feeding the birds, right? And then the Knight of Wands for me, maybe it's, you know, it's taking back this power of owning, what's the word? How am I trying to word this? Stop allowing other people to put these swords on you, right? And take this power back and own it for yourself. That's where I would take that answer. Next, I might ask something along the lines of, if you were here, like in person, you know, if you were still here with us, with me, what would you want to tell me? So if you were sitting here with me today, what would you want to tell me? Anything at all. It doesn't have to do, oops, okay. The Devil and the Star. Oh, interesting. Okay. I mean, this definitely is, you know, that's definitely a reflection of this. I think maybe they're really trying to drive that point home of releasing these chains, you know, the swords, the anxieties that are really tying you down, keeping you held back. I mean, honestly, the devil, I think that goes right along with it as well, because we have these vices that are, you know, gripping us, holding us back, tying us to others, tying us to these inanimate objects or these addictions, you know, for lack of a better word. I think they're really trying to drive that point home. I think for me, you know, unless you wanted to continue, you could do this through the whole, you know, you could do this until your whole deck was out of your hands. But one of the last questions that I really enjoyed was, gosh, what was it? Now it's completely slipped my mind. I guess not so much what would you tell me if you were here, but, you know, if we were sitting here having a visit, having a cup of coffee, whatever, sharing a moment, and we stood up and we're telling each other goodbye, you know, we'll see you, we'll catch you next time, we'll see you next week, whenever that might be. What would be kind of be your last words to me be in that moment? What would be your parting words or message for me be? Okay, so what question would this person tell me, you know, as a parting message, I suppose? The Chariot. Oh, man, this person is intent on getting you to release these things that are just dragging you down. Okay, so again, just reiterating, you know, pay attention, take time for yourself. Don't let others drag you down. Don't let their energies drag you down. Make sure you're taking care of yourself, and pay attention to these things that are warping the tiniest things into something bigger than they need to be. And just push your way through them, you know? I think that's what their message would be. Push through. You can do this. You've got this. Yeah. Okay. So should we do another one? So then at this point, you know, then I would sit down and journal. Basically what I did, I took one page and then I just kind of went through it and I was like, okay, this was my first question. This was the card I got. And then I would do kind of how I felt that card or what that card meant for their answer for me. So all right, let's do another scenario. Let's do a more specific scenario. let's say this is your great aunt. And maybe, let's get creative with this one. Maybe she's left you her giant house. Her passing was recent. She's left you her giant house and you're feeling overwhelmed with the responsibility of taking on this house. Maybe it means a big move for you. And you want to talk to her about what was she thinking? What does she want to see happen? You know? What was her intent behind leaving you this house? Maybe you're feeling nervous. Maybe you're young and you're just, this would be your first time out of your parents' house. Maybe it would be the first time out of your own apartment where, maybe you've had roommates. Maybe you've lived on your own, but it's in the city, and maybe this house is in the country. We're just getting creative with this one. So let's go with that. Let's say you've lived in the city for 6 years in your own apartment by yourself. Your aunt has passed away and she's left you a huge house and you're not sure what to do with this. Okay, so let's ask. Okay, let's see. I think the first thing we would ask, that we could ask, are you safe? Honestly, you love your aunt, right? So you want to know, are you safe? Are you okay? Is where you are comfortable? I feel like this is a good time if you are making any kind of food or drink offering, to have a sip of that drink between each question, or a nibble of whatever food you are offering, to kind of share that moment with who you were trying to reach. So are you safe and are you comfortable? Now, I will say, this is in no way telling you that you should try to reach out to someone who's recently passed. It's been a couple decades since my grandmother has passed, so I feel like doing this when emotions are still raw is probably not a good idea. It's not something I would necessarily recommend. So definitely keep that in mind. I'm definitely not advocating for pushing yourself with, the emotions of loss by any means. Oh, okay. So, okay. So Queen of Pentacles, are you happy? Are you safe? So this one is a definite, this to me is, yeah, they're happy, they're safe, they're where they're resting well, right? The Ten of Wands feels a little different than that. Although, considering the fact that we are asking about a house, okay, this is interesting. I feel like the deck is playing along here. Okay, so yes, they're happy, but they're nervous that you don't want the house, that you're not going to keep it, that you're not going to maintain it and move in and make it yours and love it the way they did. So that is causing them a lot of stress. They have a lot of history in this house. There's an I here where, to me, that would say, they're still part of the house. They still want to see it flourish and stay maintained. So to me, that's a very clear answer. They're happy, but they're feeling nervous. So, okay. So maybe you're feeling a little resentful, right? Like you live in the city, you have this job, So how can they expect you to move and just uproot your life and come be this, the steward of this house, the owner of this house? So I guess my question then would be, how am I supposed to uproot myself to do this thing that you want me to do? How am I supposed to do that? How can I make that happen in the most efficient way? Am I supposed to just quit my job? I've worked really hard to get where I am. But I also, you also care about your aunt and you want to honor her wishes. So you're conflicted. Well, let's take these three. All right, so 6 of Cups, nostalgia. Maybe she's inviting you to remember when you went there as a child, Pick up on those emotions and those memories and be able to utilize those and come back to the house in the way that she would like to see you come back to it. This is interesting. All 3 are water. Very interesting. Okay. So now, if this was a real life scenario, and let's just say the house is on the coast, right? I mean, this would be an amazing reading. Maybe it's, maybe it's across in a different country where you have to cross the ocean to get to it. Maybe there's a lake, maybe it's on the lake. She wants you to remember when you were a kid, you were out there playing with your cousins, swimming, boating, family vacations. She wants you to honor her intentions. And she feels like that by doing that, you could come back to this place of feeling happy and secure and stable. That's definitely where I would take that. Okay, so you're thinking, all right, this feels, more positive. I can see myself doing these things. So what would my first step be? What should I do first to start this journey? Moving, changing jobs, moving into a giant house. What would my first step be? What should I do first? How can I initiate this huge change for myself? I feel like this could be the beginning of a book, right? Like you could write a story out of this. And I do appreciate the way the deck is playing along. That's pretty cool, actually. So what should my first step be to initiate this big change for myself? All right. The Magician. Okay. So for me, the Magician is about manifesting. So manifesting, really, that's whenever I get it, that's kind of where my mind goes. That's my keyword. So that's kind of what I bounce off of. You know, they've got a lit up wand here, kind of like a lantern. Kind of makes me think of the hermit in that way. Keeping an open mind, understanding that change can be good, and that if you keep your eyes open and start to get excited about a job change, get excited about the prospects of having a big house to yourself, that all of the things that she can see for you happening can then happen. And you can allow yourself to imagine that so that it can come to fruition. Yeah, I like that. And I love this little rose. I mean, to me, you know, in this scenario, right, if it's going to be a huge, big mansion that she leaves to you, obviously you're going to have gardens. There's probably rose gardens out there. So that's where I would go with that. So let's ask for a parting message from this great aunt. Maybe you're asking, maybe you're quietly wondering if, you know, if you can reach out to her again, or if this is kind of a one-off thing that maybe she just needed to get this message to you, and is this going to be it? But really, at the end of the day, you just want a message from her. Just any old message, whatever she feels she needs to tell you, whatever she feels that you need to know. You would like a message. That's a really big message, y'all. Okay. Here we have another seashell. That's interesting, even though it's the swords. So let's pull these out again. So we've got these two, and then we've got these three. And then we've got the magician out here. And then her parting message to us. Man, there's a lot of water in this. Even, you know, even these swords have, I mean, this is, you know, I would assume is the sky. Obviously, you've got your birds, but that could definitely be interpreted as water. Okay, let's see. Her parting message to you. I feel like she's telling you that once you come to this, you know, once you've made that transition away from where you currently are into where she feels like you could be, you're going to be happy, rested, fulfilled. She sees friendships for you, relationships in general, friendships, relationships. The Queen of Swords, the truth. I don't know, maybe there's some kind of truth that you're supposed to find out in this house, right? Like maybe there's some hidden secret door that's going to be full of files or old photographs that she wants you to discover. The Ace of Cups and the Page of Cups. Interesting. Beginnings and, you know, beginnings of dreams, right? This is kind of the beginning of something new for you. And to me, this is like something good. New opportunities, new friendships, finding yourself. So, yeah, I mean, if only this was a real reading, right? I wish this was a real reading. This would be an amazing book. Okay, well, anyway, that's all I have. I don't want to take up too much time. We're at 35 minutes, but I just kind of wanted to run this through and I guess kind of share my method. It's not really mine. Like I read about this concept in a book. The book that I thought it was in, I flipped through before I started the video. I don't think that was it. So I'm not sure where I got this idea. It wasn't inherently mine, but definitely something fun to do. And if you do it, I would love to hear about it, whether it's a video or just Instagram, or if you just want to DM me, I would love to hear about it. Or just comment. That works for me too. So anyway, I hope you guys have a good rest of your week and a good Easter, or just a regular old Sunday. I hope it's good for you. And I will catch you guys next time. Bye.